Hey, I hope everyone's been doing good. It's been a very long time. I've been away for nearly 2 years now. Since then, I've been focusing on my education, channel with Max, social life, and well-being. After all this time, I'm doing way better. I'm in a much healthier mindset than I was, and finally have the strength to return and make a video. In this video, I'll tell you why I left. I'm going to go over a very serious allegation that was made against me in 2018. It's important for me to talk about this because of the people who know about the situation. What's been stated about me is entirely untrue and one-sided. Please don't attack anyone that's mentioned in any form of way. In October of 2018, about a month after breaking up with my ex-girlfriend, I found out that she was accusing me of sexual assault. Her specific statement was that she had been forced into oral sex while saying no. The story she had told was untrue, and I wanted to do whatever I could to get away from it. I was simply too afraid to deal with something like that, and I responded very poorly to it. I eventually made the decision to do nothing at all, living my own life away from all this 2 years later now. In December 2020, she made a tweet longer which is directed towards me. The allegation now is that she was guilt-tripped into doing sexual things, which is also untrue. She mentions both SolidShibe, Shibe Nation, and my name Thomas in this statement. It's very uncomfortable. I finally decided to say something about it, because my side of what happened that night is an entirely different story. I was treated very unfairly in this situation. Here is what I remember from that night and weekend. It was the last weekend in the end of 2018 August. She arrived late on a Friday, and we slept in my bed like usual. When we wake up on Saturday, I ask her for oral. She said, I'm not sure, in a tone that I observed as flirting or teasing. Then I say, please. She responds with, only if you make me breakfast. I experience the atmosphere is very good that morning. Later that day, when it starts to become night, we start drinking. After that, we go upstairs and watch a movie with my dad, which was home the whole time. We go downstairs and drink more. We had originally planned to livestream and build a Lego set on my channel that night, but I'd become nauseous and decided to lay down instead. I go and lay down in my bed and fall asleep. Suddenly, I'm woken up by her getting on top of me in an attempt to turn me on sexually. My head was spinning and I felt like I was gonna throw up. I'm not in the mood for anything, and I fall asleep again. The next thing I remember is that she's on the floor crying. I can't remember specifically what she said, but she was upset about something. I was too spaced out to respond or even say anything. I was still laying in my bed at this point. Then I noticed that she slams the door and she's left the room. My dad was home during all this time and wasn't woken up once. The next morning, I wake up in my bed alone and fully clothed. I find her in the couch in the next room. We start talking, and she tells me that she felt ignored. I tell her I'm sorry that I made her feel ignored. The rest of the day went on like any other. We played games together until she had to leave for the weekend. Our relationship started April 2017. This was my first real relationship. I broke up in September 2017. I make the decision to reach out to her again. We get back into a relationship in June 2018. I break up again in September 2018. I made mistakes over the time that we were together, but what she's accused me of is not one of them. The relationship we had affected me strongly emotionally. I had a huge fear of upsetting others. I was very agreeable, and it was easy for me to go along with things. I was in the mindset where it was more important for me to be liked by someone rather than saying what I really meant. In the beginning of her statement, she says, I will not go into full detail. The fact that she included this is extremely confusing. Reading this sentence right from the beginning for people who don't know the proper context could come to the conclusion that I caused what she describes as one of her most vulnerable moments. Instead of just saying we had recently taken a break in our relationship and moving along, it's likely that what she is referring to is the fact that she cheated on me. It's as if she has removed anything that could put her in a bad light. In this statement, she also shows a screenshot of a message I sent back in December 2018. The screenshot literally shows me saying I didn't believe the allegations until a bunch of people convinced me that I must have done this. She's taken this out of context for her own story. I had a problem with my self-esteem, and often I'd validate other people's words more than my own. Because I was drinking that night, I got to the conclusion that I'd forgotten about it, and my memories were false. I was in a very weak state of mind at that point. From where I am now, I can understand that I was being gaslighted. I've been working with a coach nearly 2 years now that has helped me understand this. Him, including a neuropsychologist and different counselors, have helped me tremendously. If it wasn't for them, I think it would have taken a much longer time to heal from this. Looking back at that screenshot without my side of the story, I can see how many people just assumed that this was a full confession. I'm not mad at those who took my silence as an admission of guilt. But looking back, I was treated very unfairly. When a group of people started to tell me something which didn't happen, had happened, I would start to doubt my memory and second guess myself. What I don't like is, even now, 2 years later, she's trying to hold me accountable for her emotions. One thing I notice she mentions is that she was the one who broke up. It makes sense that she would say this. For her story to work, she couldn't say that I ended the relationship, because that would look bad on her story. I think it's valid that maybe she feels hurt from this relationship, and for that I'm sorry. But her lack in responsibility of what she said about me has turned my life into a nightmare for the past 2 years. I think that she fails to see how that affects other people's lives. I was afraid of the consequences of speaking my side of the story, but after time I've realized that not speaking and staying silent has been torture for me. I wish I'd had the tools to speak up for myself back then, but I was so scared of how those who were against me would respond. Her and these people would come off very verbally dominant in a way. I'd often find myself having a freeze response. I felt entirely powerless. I was originally planning to take a short break from my channel. Because of this, it has taken much longer. Being accused of stuff like this is incredibly uncomfortable, and it's an absolute nightmare to deal with. How I try to look at it now is, if these things never happened, I would have never been who I am today. I like who I am now. I can almost say that I've never been better in my life. I realize now that I never really had to leave, but I was too naive to see that. I thought it meant that my life was over, and for a long time I became afraid of enjoying myself, or achieving things, or succeeding. It felt as if I allowed someone to take my life away from me, but the only person that can really decide that is me. I've tried to put this as well as I can. I'm not very good at formulation usually. If you want to message me or reach out to me, I'm making an Instagram, and you can send me a message there, or you can add me on Discord. Here's my ad.